and welcome back to JavaScript Playground. In this video, we will try some examples to understand inheritance better. In one of the previous videos, we created this constructor function and we added this calculate age method inside it. So now what happens is every time an instance is created, it also creates a new copy of this method, which results in duplicate code. Right now, this function has just one line, but say, what if it had like 50 lines? And just imagine with every new instance, you're creating an extra 50 lines of code, which does the same job as the original one. So the better way is what we learned in the previous video. To make a method available for all the instances, we can define it inside the constructor's prototype, so that it is inherited as a property by all the instances automatically. Now, because this prototype is a property, so we can simply access it by the function name.prototype. And to add a function, we can simply do dot calculate age is equal to, we can just copy the same function and we can remove this from here. Now this calculate age will be available inside all the instances. Let's try running the code, and as you can see, it still works. So if I inspect my code, let's try printing these instances. So console log, say John. And as you can see, we get job, name, and year of birth. So these three properties from the constructor function. And it has this another property, proto. So when I open it, it has this calculate age function. So now this calculate age function is coming from this prototype calculate age. So if you remember, whatever values you add inside this prototype of an object, it gets added automatically to all the instances. So that's why you have access to this calculate age function. Similarly, if you try to print Claire, so again, name, job, and year of birth, and inside this proto, you've got this function calculate age. Now let's just try putting it back inside the constructor function. Let's run our code again. And now as you can see, this calculate age is inside the object itself. So it's a part of the object. So every instance you create, this calculate age function will get copied. So to avoid this, we put it inside the prototype so that it is passed as the reference from the parent object. So let's revert it back for now. All right. So just like we passed this function in the prototype, we can also pass properties. So let's give that a try. So let's say prototype dot last name. Let's give it a value, say Clark. Now when I run my code, so this JSBin doesn't show the logs properly, so that's why we're checking the Chrome logs. So when I open this person, so we've got job name and year of birth, but if you open this proto, it has got calculate age along with the last name. Similarly, if you open this John, so over here as well, you've got the same last name, Clark. And to access it, you can simply do console log john.lastname, and you can do the same thing for Claire. And when you run this code, it prints Clark for both. So that's how you can pass the properties and methods inside this prototype so that it's available in all the instances. So far, we have just used methods to fetch the data. We can also create methods to set data. So for example, let's create another function. So person.prototype, the function name, let's say update year of birth. And this function will get arguments, let's say birth year. So whenever you call this function, say update year of birth, parenthesis, and pass the value, that value is passed to this function as birth year. So you have access to it. First, let's try printing it. So let's say birth year. Let's remove all these extra logs for now. Now let's try calling this function. Say John dot update year of birth, and currently it's 1992. Let's make it 1990. Let's call this function before and after. So it will just print the current date. Let's run it, and as you can see, it's 27, and we pass 1990, and that's printed. So instead of just printing it, we can update the current value. Say this dot year of birth, and we can assign this birth year. Now if you run the code again, it's 2729. It got increased by 2. Similarly, if you also try to print Claire's age, if you run the code again, it's 25, 27, 29, and 25. Let's just quickly add some logs so that it's more clear for which object we are printing. Say for this dot name, let's give it a try again. So for Claire, age is 25. For John, age is 27. And then we update the year of birth for John. His age becomes 29. After that, we print Claire's age. It's still 25. So this update method, it only updates the value of the current context. So again, this keyword comes handy. It tells for which object we are talking about. So when you do this dot year of birth is equal to some value, so year of birth gets updated for that specific object and not for all the objects. All right. These methods for setting and fetching values are called getter and setters. The getter methods are used to fetch data, and setter methods are used to update data. And that's a wrap for today.